Well, it's too early to have definitive answers. But two parts, though. One is the yield looks like it's significantly higher than the 2009 test, although that needs to be verified. And the other is that North Korea is saying that this is a demonstration of miniaturization of their nuclear warheads. And I think for a while we've felt that at ISIS that North Korea could miniaturize a warhead for a no-dong missile, which has a range of about 800 miles. And so in that sense, we weren't surprised by North Korea's announcement. But it's still, they're on a path, and that path started many, many years ago. And the path is, if this isn't worked out in a successful manner, probably the deployment of nuclear-tipped ballistic missiles that could at least threaten the countries in the region. And eventually, if North Korea continues, I think it would take them several years, we could be faced with a situation where they could mount a nuclear warhead on an intercontinental ballistic missile.
So I think what's different is that this is the first test under the new leader, Kim Jong-un. And so many people thought that he would not be around 1 year later, and he still is. So I think it's something for us to say that regardless of who's in charge, one of the things that we have to realize that even though it's a different leader, the policies more or less seem to be the same, and it's the use of threats, intimidation, provocative behavior to a particular end. And so that, I think, is something in addition to what David has talked about is significant. I think the one thing that we need to know, if it is indeed miniaturization, I guess the critical thing is whether it's a plutonium or an HEU blast. And it sounds like if it's miniaturization, maybe more inclined towards plutonium. But if it is HEU, then there's an issue of having significantly another source of nuclear material.
Well, I agree with everything David and Phil just said. Let me focus on what's new about U.S. policy, because this comes at a very awkward time for U.S. policy, partly because this is a transition of the Obama administration trying to, in fact, install its Secretary of Defense, Hagel, if he gets confirmed this week and gets into office. Secretary Kerry having just arrived, talking mostly about the Middle East, not so much about Asia rebalancing. And this is also occurring at a time when our key ally, South Korea, is yet to install its newly elected president, Park Geun-hye. Indeed, this seems to be a diplomatic preemption on the part of Pyongyang toward both President Obama's State of the Union address tonight. Remember, 11 years ago, it was his predecessor, George W. Bush, who famously talked about an axis of evil with Saddam Hussein, Iran, and North Korea. Well, I doubt President Obama will want to bring that up in his speech tonight, but it's going to make it very awkward for him to talk about nuclear reductions in the U.S. arsenal at a time when North Korea is brandishing a burgeoning nuclear threat that eventually, as David explained, brings it on a path toward a nuclear ICBM later this decade. At the same time, it's a huge diplomatic challenge for the United States to now manage a strategy, a coherent strategy, and a comprehensive one, starting with South Korea, because North Korea has taken the first step even before the new South Korean government takes office in the Blue House.